Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is Jordan Van Hemert of the West Michigan Jazz Society Board of Directors. I'm so excited to be bringing you another jazz talk this week. And personally, this guest is one of my favorite people. One of my favorite people, and I like a lot of people, so that's kind of saying something. So today we're going to be talking with Caleb Elzinga. All right. Caleb Elzinga is a tenor saxophonist from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He graduated from Michigan State University with his undergraduate degree and later Western Michigan University with a master's degree in jazz performance. He's learned from great saxophonists like Diego Rivera and Dr. Andrew Rathbun, and he's an experienced improviser with a wide variety of influences. Having played in many projects performing jazz, rock, funk, R&B, and reggae, he is comfortable in many genres. While in school, he also had the opportunity to play and work with artists such as Christian McBride, John Faddis, Herlin Riley, Randy Brecker, Antonio Hart, and George Garzone. Caleb has contributed to so many different projects, and one of the things that I love about his musicianship is that it is so varied. He is somebody who just does so many different things on the saxophone, and he is, really kind of a force to be reckoned with. So without further ado, please give it up in your homes for Mr. Caleb Elzinga. Hey, Caleb, how you doing?
What's up? How are you?
Oh, I'm really well. How about yourself?
Good. I'm almost there.
You hanging in? Yeah.
I'm good. I'm trying to get this set up.
Right on, right on.
We're
So,
close.
you said you had the day off today, right?
I did. I had the day off. I work at Byron Center High School with the band program.
Mm-hmm.
Byron Center is doing SAT testing today. So Mark Townley texted me this morning. He's like, hey, we don't have students all day. If you've got stuff to do, you want to get done, feel free to come in. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, okay, sure. Thanks.
All right. Can't argue with a free day to shed, right?
That's kind of what I did. So
right on.
Progress and productivity.
Yeah, that's great. So how long have you been working with Byron Center?
This is my third full year, I believe.
Wow,
I started with them October of 2018.
Wow, that's awesome. What an amazing band program over there at Byron Center.
Man, they're incredible. The directors really have a vision and a plan for what they want, where they want it to go, and just that standard, that's like setting the bar here and not letting it dip.
Yeah,
it's really nice to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you work with the jazz bands and with the concert bands also?
Yep. And then for marching band,
Awesome.
I run the sound system. We mic all of the front line pit. We have 2 synthesizers and all of that. So I run the samples and the mixing board for the show.
Okay.
So that was a steep learning curve for that one.
Yeah, I bet. But definitely probably one that's really good for you, right? Like
that one.
Just another good skill set.
Yeah, exactly. If I wasn't, that one was funny because I got hired on 2018 as a saxophone tech, just the woodwind tech, and then one rehearsal, as the way things go with electronics, it just all was on fire one rehearsal. And Mark looked over at me. He's like, hey, do you know how to fix it? Please at least go try, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I just start digging around. He's like, all right, that's your job. You need to figure out how this works, and good luck. I was like, okay, cool. Job security at its finest right there.
That is exactly right. Kind of a diversify or starve. No.
Quite literally.
But yeah, let's actually talk about that, because you are somebody who I really admire, actually, as a saxophonist, as a musician. because of all of the things that you do and all of your different fascinations as a musician. And so like, let's talk about that. So like
Sure.
with our age group, like I feel like we're part of a generation that you can't do just one thing
Mhm.
and expect to like make a living doing this. So can you talk about how that has kind of played out in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So back when I was in high school, I guess because that's when it started. I started playing saxophone in high school. Um, I went into my junior, senior year thinking, man, saxophone's the greatest. Jazz is awesome. I'm going to go to jazz school. I'm going to be a jazz musician. The my my goal, my career goal was to play saxophone. I wanted to be a saxophone member of the Jazz and Lincoln Center Orchestra. As a that was why I went to school. Went to school and I learned a lot. You know, I learned what the music was. I learned what all music was. Like I didn't really listen to music until I listened to jazz in high school, and then I got to college and they're like, jazz is great. Listen, you have to learn all of this stuff. And now, like now that you're able to hear music for what it is, go check out this, go check out this, go check out this. And I was like, wow, there's so much out there. And um all the way through school, I was playing in my first band was a rock band right out of high school. I played in a reggae band for a year, which then led to like a disco funk band, into like a singer songwriter band, and all the while studying jazz, I was playing in everything except jazz, if you will, rock bands, funk bands, and that
Yeah.
was sort of as much as I was learning and loving the process of jazz, I was also being pulled into so many other directions, which just gave me different opportunities than say, you know, a practice room, uh, just being on a gig with maybe musicians who didn't know where I was coming from. Well, now I don't know where they're coming from, and trying to meet halfway. So um in the end, obviously, I'm not looking at being a saxophone player in the Jazz at Lincoln Center anymore. I enjoy playing jazz when it happens, but very much more frequently, I get to play dance music and pop music, funk music, rock music, you name it, and I'm all for it. So that trajectory initially started off, I wanted to be in a big band, and now it's more so anything and everything that comes my way. So I don't
Yeah.
know if that's, yeah, somehow we got all the way through there, but I think that was the
Yeah.
question.
And I think that really answers my question, really. So in terms of the projects that you've been a part of, when you talk about, you know, and taking anything and everything that comes your way, I think that's a really great thing. And especially like, oh man, I want to archive this and like show it to all my students and be like, see, this is what you need to be ready for, you know, as you go out into the world. So, you know, when you say anything and everything, what prepared you for that?
One doing it young. I started playing music with not non-jazz musicians, if you will, right out of high school, and then just continuing to do that. The cool thing about jazz is not only is there a language when we talk about like the musical phrasings and all of this, uh, like the language of Sonny Stitt, the language of Charlie Parker, all of those things.
Mm,
We talk about that,
yeah.
but there's also a way to talk about music, like the intricacies of music, from a musician's perspective, understanding chord symbols, understanding mode names, understanding all of these things that we use to communicate sounds and ideas. Where oftentimes when you're not in a setting with other jazz musicians, those words or phrases don't have as much weight, or they don't mean as much. So it's been interesting, um like going through and learning all of that stuff, undergrad degree, master's degree, it's in there, but being able to translate all of the stuff that I know into terms and phrases that everybody else uses, you know, which and doing it in a way that doesn't make anybody feel small, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
anybody and everybody can play music. Your education stature or status doesn't change that for me or for, you know, anybody. So But like you don't want to walk up to somebody and say like, yeah, you play Dorian over that. And then like, I don't know what that means. Oh, you don't know what Dorian means. Like, that's never what we want to do as musicians, or I mean, as people for sure,
Yeah.
but as
Yeah.
musicians. So,
Well, and I know so many people who are like that. So I think what we're witnessing is a need for a paradigm shift, away from this, hey, you're not good enough for me, get on my level kind of a thing, and more toward what you're talking about as like, I know what this is, but hey, I want to share it with you in a way that you understand, and it's okay that you're not like academically trained, that's not an aspersion that you're trying to cast.
right. And I think especially like how you mentioned being able to teach, like bringing that experience to younger students, like anybody you're teaching, or just like, I want to archive this thing so that I could show these people. When you're able to talk about music on varying levels of phrases and words and intricacies, you're able to communicate with the sixth graders a lot better.
Absolutely.
You're able to communicate with your high schoolers a lot better. And then like, how do you, like, a lot of, I mean, I'm at Byron Center. A lot of our Byron Center kids are not going to go to school for music, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But how do I continue to get them excited about music so that they become maybe not musicians, but music lovers and music
Exactly. Oh yeah.
like people who appreciate music. That's a huge goal, to get a society of people to enjoy art and creation and music and all of the things. So being able to talk about music in an engaging way that doesn't belittle them, then yeah, that goes such a long way.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, that's beautiful, Caleb. By the way, Mark Slider says hi, Caleb.
Mark, what's up?
And I just wanted to throw it out for everybody who might be watching our discussion here. Please, remember, I want this to develop in an organic way. And so if you guys have questions for Caleb, he's an incredible person. I am sure he'd love to answer them. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the comments. And so if you guys want to drop some questions in the comments, feel free to do that. But for now, Caleb, why don't you tell me, like, how has COVID affected your music making?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to say it in two ways. One, at the beginning of COVID, obviously everything shut down.
Yeah.
Everything, including grocery stores, including factories. Like the first 2 weeks, the first 3 weeks, nobody did anything. Then obviously things got figured out, started loosening up. Okay. Yeah, you can go buy groceries, but during this time, all of those things. Anyway, for musicians, for the music industry, that didn't happen. And to that point, hasn't happened yet. Not to the point where you can, what once was make a living off of music, that hasn't come back yet. So it's interesting navigating that. That being said, I've been actually very lucky, fortunate for the past 3 months. I've been playing pretty regularly. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly why or how, because I don't know. But yeah, so since like the middle of June, I've been playing 2 to 3 shows a week, and it felt cool, because it was like, oh, this is like what my summer usually is, or what my summer usually felt like, even though it was always with masks, there was COVID precautions, all of these things. So still trying to be safe, but getting out and playing. So that being said, like, I've been on the fortunate side of things, where I know some musicians still haven't played a gig yet, or have just booked their first one like October 1st or something like that.
Yeah.
So there is that, and I've been fortunate to play. That being said, and sort of the second part is when we were all in quarantine and just like no gigs, no outlets, people were just starting to figure out live streams. I started writing music on Logic, because I was like, I have nothing else to do. I've watched every season of every TV show I can imagine. I've played all of my video games. I've played, I've done it all. if you can say that. So I was like, I need to do something better with my time. I need to practice more saxophone. I need something to motivate me to play saxophone, because I didn't want to. My desk, my studio setup was right next to my bed. So I'm either in my bed all day or I force myself to get up, but I'm never changing rooms, you know, so I needed that extra motivation. So I turned to Logic, and I went into Logic every day. I was just like, I'm going to write something. It's going to be trash because I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. And that sort of led to me finding an outlet for music playing, for me to play saxophone, because I use Instagram specifically to give myself a platform to play my music. So I'd write something during the day. I figure out a spot in the song that, I could probably blow saxophone over this. Set up a camera, do the thing. I learned how to use iMovie really well, and I'd throw up a video. That lasted a good month of motivation, and then even that started to get weird. So then I started like, all right, I'm going to call this drummer, I'm going to call this bass player, I'm going to call this person, and let's do collabs. So I started doing collabs with like D. Washington and John Nowak, Madison George, just a bunch of drummers. I think you and I were about to do one, and then things blew up again. But just now now that I've created a way to play music, what's still lacking is the fact that I'm not playing music with people, and that's such a huge part of the scene and the music itself. So trying to reach out in those regards. So it was evolving, but as far as like creation, me continuing to play, it was writing music for myself, forcing myself to do something music related to get me out of bed.
Yeah, and that takes discipline. Yeah, that's great, man. That it's inspiring to hear you talk about this, because I think we were all in that place. Like, I mean, there was like a month where I didn't write a note. I couldn't write anything. I was just so down. It reminds me of this quote from Larry Teal that one of my teachers told me. Sometimes in life and in music, you have to create your own market. And that really stuck with me. And I think this is absolutely an example of you doing just that. So Doc Brewer, we got Doc Brewer in here. And he says, one of the best tenor saxophonists I ever played with, the late Rich Gordon, could barely read music and knew nothing about chord progressions, but he was still a great improviser and interpreter of melody. I have a doctorate in music theory and composition, and I have never come up to Rich's level. That's just beautiful. And first of all, shout out, hey Doc, how you doing, man?
Yeah, what's up, Doc?
And I just think that that's such a beautiful sentiment from a beautiful human being who, there are so many great musicians out there, who can't read music, don't know, anything about, cutting changes or anything like that. And it's still, I always just think music finds a way, music finds a way. So, so let's talk about, your work with D. Washington. So what are some of the groups so like you play with D in what, Groove Ground?
Yep, we are Groove Ground Music. Right on. We started the group. So my friend Pete Murphy and D. Washington started the group last year around this time. Last year around this time, and then it's just evolved. Adam Marth now plays in the group, and myself on saxophone. So it's evolving, and we're trying to write new music, and we're just trying to be funky. We are trying to be the Grand Rapids funk band, if you will.
Right on.
So James Brown, we're coming for you. But
right on.
Obviously we can never match that, but we at least can be inspired.
Well, hey, I mean, he set the bar so that the rest of us, could kind of
as
live
a genre,
in his innovation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like he set the bar not only as a genre, but also as like an entertainer and stage man and MC, like all this stuff. So
Yeah, so we got Joseph here who says, have you noticed any changes to the kind of music you write or enjoy listening to as a result of the pandemic?
As a result of the pandemic, I don't know if it ties to the pandemic, but I have been listening to a lot more of like I want to hear like epic instrumental music. Um, not well, and I guess it kind of, you were there. It kind of spurred from the Derek Brown recording session. Was every song that he
Yeah,
wrote was stadium rock and roll, not rock and roll, but stadium jazz.
yeah.
Something
Like
that
turn
was
it up to
big.
11.
Turn it up to 11. So I've been trying to find music like that. I found a band called Aberdeen. Um, I believe
Hmm.
all of the guys live out in New York. Adam Neely is the bass player.
Yep. Yeah.
Who's I follow the saxophone player. I forgot his name, but the band plays, their latest album is called. I don't know. I have it written here on my board. Aberdeen the band upholds all, because I heard Bob Reynolds play. He soloed on the third track of this album, and so I wrote that one down to listen to it, and I was transcribing it. But Aberdeen the band, it's exciting. It generates a lot of energy, and it's all instrumental. So I'm listening for a lot of those things. Um, Other things that I'm listening to, I've started to listen a lot more to like uh, hip hop, lo-fi type stuff. I'm working with a producer named Zeke, or his tag is Easy Beats. Him and I have been writing a lot of lo-fi hip hop music.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that
So
stuff.
yeah, that's been really fun. And now, like, trying to put myself in that realm, like learning that genre, I'm trying to have myself listen to more of that music. So I don't know
Yeah, of course.
if that was quarantine related, other than him and I got connected during quarantine, and then we started writing that sort of music. Um, the type of music I write, um, I'm kind of all over the board. And also, to that point, I never finish anything. That's always been one of my issues. I've got 100 different Logic sessions on my computer, all different ideas and songs, but none of them are done. So they're all there. I don't know what to do with them yet. So, but yeah, Joe, I'm not sure if it's COVID related, but I think with any season, you're just what's new, what's going to push me to keep learning or keep listening, or some new inspiration. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So I just want to come out here and say that this is a function of the West Michigan Jazz Society, and we have memberships that are available on our website. You can get there from our Facebook page, um, and that is, this organization is working very hard to support musicians in creative ways, and I think one of the ways is, Kevin Jones came up with this idea that, hey, we just want to hear musicians talk about what they do, talk about their music. And so hearing you, Caleb, talk about your music is, important. And I think the two of us were really very dedicated to getting some of our old heralded hometown heroes, Doc Brewer, Steve Talaga, Elgin Vines, as well as some younger musicians, and shining a light on them. Um, so I really love this series. I've been learning a ton. Um, but the West Michigan Jazz Society, they're doing a lot of really great stuff in regard to that. Um, so we have a Doc Brewer prescription here, Caleb. We got a
Oh,
Doc Brewer prescription. Counterbalance the epic instrumental music with a healthy dose of the delicate glass menagerie scoring of Maria Schneider's bells.
Maria, let me write. I have a whiteboard right here. I'm going to write down
Nice. Oh,
Maria.
that's great. That's a great thing to have.
It's
Yeah, and I would.
massive. Check this out. This white, I got this from Byron Center. They were throwing it
That's
out,
awesome.
and now it has everything that comes in my head or from the mouth of Doc Brewer.
Yeah,
It goes on the board.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool, man. I gotta get myself one of those. Man, I think that could be really helpful. I agree with Doc about, the delicacy of Maria's scoring. One of my favorite tunes of hers last season is That Way.
Okay.
And it is incredibly just immaculately crafted. Another one I like her arrangement of My Ideal. You see her writing a lot of her own tunes, but arranging standards is something obviously that we all do, and that one is it's beautiful. It's got a huge flute solo in it,
Oh
and
wow.
that's a lot of fun to play.
Oh,
Like
you've played that chart.
yeah,
Dang.
I've played it. Yeah. It's a great chart. Um, anyway, so yeah, he says counterbalance the epic instrumental music. Let's talk about Derek Brown in that session that we did, because you guys had this
Yeah.
epic saxophone. I won't call it a battle. I'll call it a conversation. You
Epic
guys,
conversation. That
yeah, you
is
guys had
very
an
fitting.
epic conversation over this tune called The Pursuit. So,
Mhm.
how did you and Derek get acquainted and start playing together?
So Randy Marsh has a jazz jam session every Sunday at the Speakeasy from 7 to 10, or at least pre-COVID, right? And I try to spend uh all of my Sundays that I had off, I would try to go to this session. And one night I had the night free. I was like, I'm gonna go downtown. Went downtown, sat down, and it was one of those things like the bands I got there a little after 7, so the band's already playing their first set. And so I just kind of slink in, try to figure out a way somewhere to sit where I'm not being disruptive, sit down, and start listening, start checking things out. I see Randy, I see the other cats on the gig. Start looking around at the crowd, like, oh, like it's a nice turnout tonight. Like, who's here? And on the bar side, where there's more seating, I saw what looked like Derek Brown at the time, but he was with his, who I know now, Rachel, his wife. Um, I knew that he was married, but I had never really seen her. And anyway, I was like, that looks like Derek Brown. That really looks like. So I jump on my phone as fast as I can. Instagram, Derek Brown, like him, like look at the phone, look at the face, and then
Yeah, yeah.
and then slowly you just like you see the other pieces. His saxophone was on like down by his feet, like hidden in the dark, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's Derek Brown. So Derek Brown, if you ever watch this, I'm gonna nerd out and fanboy all over right now, but I had been following the music of Derek Brown for years.
It's hard not to when you play saxophone.
It's hard not to when you play saxophone. He plays the saxophone like no one else, and at a very, very high caliber. So it's just like, those days you feel really good about yourself. You do need that thing that puts you a peg down that says, all right, I got to keep practicing, or vice versa. Like, I don't really feel like practicing today. I need inspiration. Derek Brown could be that for either case. So I went up to him. I was like, hi, you're Derek Brown. He's like, yeah, I am. One of the awkward conversations and whatnot. And oddly enough, he knew who I was. He's like, oh, and you're Caleb, because, and I think he saw through Gary, the Barry player. He was emailing with Gary, and at the time, I think Gary and I were working on a project together, so my name had been thrown around. So cool thing, and very shocking to me, was like, oh, he already knows my name. That's weird. And then from that point on, we just started talking. He got his horn out. We played the jam session together. He had just moved into Grand Rapids 2 weeks prior to that meeting, so he was very fresh in Grand Rapids, just learning the scene, learning the city. And then I had offered, I asked him if he wanted to get coffee, and he's like, yeah, sure. And we got coffee, and we just talked about Grand Rapids for a while, talked about the different music opportunities, the different bands that are here, different colleges that are around the area, because he does so much work with high schools and colleges with the type of music that he does. So it was just like information and a cool hang. And I was hanging out with Derek Brown, so I'm like, you know, it was the first time I got to hang out with him. And then we started playing. Like, I would go over to his house. I know this is a long story because I'm still like freaking out that I was hanging out with Derek Brown at the time. Um, we ended up playing together. I think he came over to my house first. He's like, "Hey, I've been trying to do more like, I want to be able to walk bass lines through jazz standards and improvise over them at the same time. Would you be interested in just playing along with me?" And I was like, uh, yes, there is no, you know. We started doing that more and more. We just like once a week started playing, and then we did a couple videos together, which once again just floored me. Like, I'm doing a video with Derek Brown, who's, you know, Derek Brown. So we did those videos together. You and Derek met at Founders at one of the Grand Rapids Jazz Orchestra shows. And then I think that was what spurred getting that. Wow, I've gone all over the place. That was what spurred getting the album recorded at Hope. And then because Derek and I had already had a history, we have 3 videos out of just us playing duo. Because of that history, and we had already just started playing a lot together. On the Pursuit, he was like, "Hey, there's a part that calls for a second saxophone solo during this. Do you want to do our thing? Do you want to do our back and forth epic conversation thing?" And again, yes, there is no answer to this question. And now we have the Pursuit, which ended up being awesome. I think we practiced it at his house once, just during one of our regular sessions, and it was like, cool, let's just go do that at the session, and then we popped it out. So
Nice. Yeah, man, beautiful, beautiful stuff. So I'm wondering if you could. So Mark, being the trumpet player that he is, said, "Hey, do you sleep with your sax strap on?" So I'm wondering if you could show us some of the stuff that you've been experimenting with on your setup, some of the like the pedals, and if you could play a little bit for us.
Sure. As far as neck strap, here you go, Mark. This is my neck strap. I have never slept with it before. I don't believe. I do lose it around the house. If I start playing in the morning, I'll do the thing, leave it on during the day, and walk out, and I put it down on the couch, or I put it down on the staircase, and then I come back to play saxophone like an hour later. I'm like, yeah, I don't know where it is. So I just need like remote tickers on everything. Anyway, here's my saxophone. It's a Yamaha YTS 475. Nothing fancy, but it's my baby, and it gets the job done. I play a hard rubber mouthpiece and number 3 reeds for all those saxophone players out there. As far as my other stuff, what I do, I do a lot of recording work in Logic, either for myself or what ended up, because of quarantine, doing all of those projects for myself. I actually got hit up by other artists, either in Michigan or, oddly enough, like around the US. Like, hey, I like how you sound. Would you like to record saxophone over this? Yes, I would. And then all of that started. So I'm doing a lot more work in Logic and all of those things. But when I play live, I have pedals. I'm going to duck below sea level real quick. And just so I don't pop. So this is one of my favorites. It's a guitar pedal. I have the Hall of Fame 2 reverb pedal. It was sweetwater.com hooked me up. Playing live with this is really nice, especially when, like, if you're in a jazz setting, this isn't really necessary, because the acousticness, the interactiveness between the drums, the bass, all those things, is just, that is the sound. When I'm playing other styles of music, where sometimes my role isn't to be playing the solo, it's more to be ethereal, to lay down pads or just to lay down colors. This pedal is really, really nice because it'll soften up. I can play a little bit softer and just have that wash of sound versus no. That being said, I have this one. I hooked it all up and now I'm tearing it apart. I'll be able to put it back together soon. This is the TC Electronic, Quintessence harmony pedal. It's a diatonic harmony pedal. So the up here, I pick the key, and it does have flat and sharp keys.
Mm-hmm.
You pick the mode up top, Ionian through. It actually doesn't have Locrian, but it goes Ionian through Aeolian. And then I know, right? And then just different. These are different presets I can do, and then different interval options that it gives me: thirds and sixths, thirds and fifths, just the sixth, fifth, third, minor third, fourth below, sixth below, all those things. Oftentimes when I do get called for a gig, it's just me. And again, if my role isn't to just play the head solo head, there's other stuff. There's guitar solos. There's lyrics behind that I have to play behind. This is nice if it's just me to just fill out the horn, quote unquote, horn section, if you will. So this has been really fun. And the nice thing to have like these little guys in your back pocket is when you are in the spotlight for a solo and it's just like, it's time to send it. You know what I mean? Just like, we're in,
without a doubt.
We're in bar 15, 16, like we're going to the end. You pop the button on one of these and, you know, the possibilities are endless and it just gets insane. So yeah, let me plug these back in and I'll try to show you guys all of the things I just talked about. Or
Very
at least
cool.
some of them.
Oh, Doc says good night. Hey, good night, Doc. Take care, man.
Good night, Doc. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Well, Caleb Elzinga is getting his pedals set up. I just want to remind all of you that you can pop any questions that you have right here in the chat. And for some more information, you can definitely go to these different links that you see here. Membership being for everybody of the West Michigan Jazz Society, et cetera, et cetera. We've been talking with Caleb Elzinga, who is an incredible saxophonist and you know, just all around good guy here. Works with Byron Center in their high school band program and is a freelance musician playing in a wide variety of settings. Doing a lot of stuff with Logic. Might have him talk about that, doing a lot of stuff with pedals and other very, very interesting things.
All right, sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out the best way. And I think this will just be, it's gonna sound a little weird. So I have my speaker underneath playing,
Okay.
It's going to be
All
the
right.
pedals. But then that's feeding in through my talk microphone. So it's not going to be perfect. I was trying to see if I could route that in directly to my interface, blah, 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 all this stuff.
Okay.
Too much time. I'm just going to play for you.
All right. Sounds good, man.
So. happier for you guys. So there's some of that. Jordan. Let me know if that sounded
Yeah,
good,
man.
I guess.
I think that sounded great. That's some, some beautiful sounds in there. Just really.
Yeah,
What now?
it's nice to be able to play with sounds that, as a saxophone player, we can only play one note at a time. And most of the time it's just you play the note and then you articulate it and it's done. So now just like getting some space in there, like real depth in presence, if you will. The harmonizer has been really great, really fun. So all those things just to keep things spicy. And as far as what you had mentioned this earlier, like the Larry Teal thing, you have to create a market for yourself, So if anything, this has been like using these. I don't see other saxophone players, at least in Michigan. Mason Velo plays with pedals every once in a while. I actually have 2 of his. I need to give him back. But not a lot of saxophone players are doing this. So if there's a need for it, then I'm able to match that need. I'm creating a market for that. I'm creating a market by doing home recordings,
Yeah, man.
All of those things just to keep me tethered to the music scene and tethered to opportunities, multiple streams of income. If you want to get, go into those terms, there's like try to be me and accept that the me that I'm turning into isn't necessarily the me that I thought that I would be. If that makes sense too.
Yeah, definitely. So you got some comments here. Joe says, I never would have thought to use effects pedals on a saxophone. That's really cool. And Gary thought it sounded good. He said he'd like to try one on Barry, which I think would just sound so dope.
That would sound amazing.
Yeah.
This harmonizer, I've done a preset where it gives me an octave below. An octave below with a Barry input would be insane.
That'd be so hip. Is the octave one of the things that is that like Joshua Redman Elastic kind of a deal, like where he's harmonizing with himself on Jazz Crimes?
I'd have to listen to that again. Me and Kyle Wheeler nerded out on that song for a long time.
Yeah, me too, man.
I don't remember. Did he do like a second track with himself in the recording session, or was he using pedals?
I'm not sure. It kind of sounds like he might have been using pedals, but I to be honest with you, am not. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily know, but
if you guys, do you know Ben Wendell? Do you listen to Ben Wendell at all?
Yeah,
Ben Wendell is somebody that uses pedals.
Without a doubt.
Loopers. He'll use. I don't know if he uses. I'm sure he uses harmony pedal or harmonizer pedals to a degree. I just don't know to what degree. But me and Eddie Codrington, we met when I was at Western. Him and I started this venture towards pedals. I think it was like every other week. It was like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what's a preamp? What's an expression pedal? How do you get the expression pedal to do that thing? So it was really fun to just like workshop some of those ideas and start buying the gear, start putting it together, and find our own way into that world.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, in our closing minutes here together, I'm wondering if anybody out there has any questions for Caleb, our incredible guest. I think he's been dropping some really great knowledge, um, and telling us about his career. So anybody out
As
there
it
have any
starts, yeah.
questions?
See, let's see. Judah, what's up, Judah?
Hey Judah, how you doing, man? Good to see you on this thing. Thanks for making the hang. Looking forward to the next time I get to hear you play, man.
Talk about up and coming, you know. One of the
Yeah,
dudes.
that guy,
Well,
he's one of those dudes.
you had Alon Sullivan. Was it
I
last week
did.
or the week before?
It was last week, yeah.
It was last week, yeah. I was watching some of that interview today in preparation for today, of course.
Oh, right on.
But yeah, that it's so cool to see those guys. I met Alon at Randy's session as well.
Yeah.
You nerd out about saxophone, you nerd out about chord changes, and
Yeah. So Judah says, "Hey Caleb, do you have plans for staying in West Michigan?"
for the time being, I'm in Michigan, and so I just started playing with a band called Joe Hertler and the Rainbow Seekers. They're a band out of Lansing,
Hmm.
and pre-COVID, and we're assuming after COVID too, however that looks. The band tours 150 to 200 shows a year. So
Awesome.
I'm looking to stay in Michigan, but I believe I'll be on tour with them for a good chunk of the change. Um,
That's great, man.
but as
That's
far as
great.
where I call home base, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Right on. That's great. We're so glad to have you around. Have
Yeah.
a talent of your caliber. Yeah. Any other questions out there for Caleb Elzinga, saxophonist, educator, all
Um,
around good human,
Joker. I'm not really a jokester.
joker, apparently.
Sometimes I wish I could be, but oftentimes I'm
Yeah.
too straight laced or
Yeah.
dry for that matter.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with some sincerity in there. Ben's got a question here. Benjamin.
Hi Ben.
He says, "Hey Caleb, how do you balance your jazz and pop music inspirations in your soloing?" That's a great question.
That's huge. That's huge. There's okay, so I want to start by saying a quote from Diego Rivera, and he had said during my time at Michigan State that you never hire a jazz musician to play a funk gig. And I didn't at the time, of course, as many things we learn with experience and figuring out for ourselves, but at the time I didn't know what he meant. Now I kind of understand what he meant is like there for each genre of music, there's a certain way to play or there's a certain tone, there's a certain articulation, you know.
There's
Um,
like a vernacular.
there's a vernacular for everything. Even in terms of jazz, we have swing, we have bebop, we have hard
Yeah.
bop, you have, what's now modern. Like I had this little thing I did during like quarantine was, do people still turn as in the phrase double double dibbly dibby dub or something like that?
Oh yeah,
Nowadays, the
yeah.
modern articulation, the modern lingo for those turns is now not so much the turn, but the same amount of space. So instead of dibble dubble dibbly dibby dum, it's gonna be dibble doodle de dum, right? It's a little
Mm,
bit more straighter. So
yeah.
this modern sound. So even inside jazz, there's a different way to be improvising. So when you switch to pop music is oftentimes very simple harmonically and doesn't really lend itself to, or at least the audience doesn't lend itself to wanting to hear the uh, impositions or super impositions of jazz harmony, if you will.
Right.
So
Right.
when they write triad, they want to hear a triad. They don't want to hear major 7 sharp 11. And being able to filter yourself and play the vernacular in the right place actually does, even though it might feel, again, coming from a jazz musician's perspective, might feel like I'm playing less or I'm playing below my level. That's actually not the case at all. By checking your ego at the door and you play and playing what is necessary for that style of music actually develops and actually further progresses your musical development.
Yeah.
At least I believe that. So how do you
Yeah.
balance that? Um, take both gigs. Continue to take your jazz
Mm.
gigs, and if you need to stretch those legs, do those stretches on those gigs. Don't do them while you're playing your pop or funk gigs. That being said, if you're trying to play smooth over, you know, footprints, maybe that's not the right time to be playing smooth. Play the genre that you're sitting in. I think is a good way to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think, I mean, like, who is that tenor saxophone soloist on Hallelujah, I Love Her So? Is that Don Wilkerson or something? Don Wilkerson?
I've learned that solo. I don't know who did it.
Yeah, so that solo like is in its beautiful simplicity. It's got the blues in there. You're playing, that is the hippest thing, the best possible thing that could have elapsed during that solo. Like
Right.
during that song. That is the like that's the thing. The perfect thing. And so like, when you hear Bird, he's playing the best thing for that moment as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think I was having the same conversation with my students. You know, if you're playing, my students are learning tipping on the QT.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yep.
they're learning that tune, and I said, you can't, you got to play like a swing player. You got to play like Prez. You got to play like Eddie Lockjaw Davis. You got to play that style. You can't be like coming all up in here and playing like um, so many superimposed changes. Like,
Right.
so we were just having that conversation with my students, and so I really appreciate that sentiment.
I mean, yeah, I definitely try to live by it because I do
Yeah.
I do teeter on both sides weekly. Weekly, I
Hmm.
played a jazz quartet gig on Friday, and then the following day, what did I play the following day? My roommates over here. Did I have something? I don't know. I had another gig the following day. It was
Hmm.
probably like a wedding or something. Now I'm playing top 40
Yeah.
hits.
Yep.
To
Yeah.
you have to wear different hats.
Yeah.
Um
Absolutely.
and by doing so, you're actually respecting the music. By checking your ego, it's like, yeah, I know I can play all these superimpositions, but that would be about me and how much I know
Yeah.
about the saxophone, or I know about
Absolutely.
harmony. That's why I'm doing that.
Mm.
Like, check
Yeah.
your ego at the door. When you're playing pop music, play pop music. When you're playing jazz music, play music. When you're playing swing, play swing. When you're playing
Yeah.
straight ahead, play straight ahead.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Ivan Akansima in the house, man. Hey, Ivan, how you doing?
Ivan, what's up, man?
Ivan, hey. Judah says beautiful words, keeping language diverse. I agree. Um, hey, that's about all the time that we have for this evening. Caleb, thank you so much for being here, man. Thank you for the great conversation. I respect what you do so much. I value your friendship, and love hearing you play. Looking forward to the next time we get to work together.
Let's do it, man. Hey, just because we have like 1 minute, when is your album
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
out? When is
My
your album?
album. My album. Don't ask me about my record.
Is it out
Uh,
yet now? I
it
don't
is
have I don't have albums, so this is
it
you.
is it is coming out at the latest March of 2021. Hoping to get it out, I think maybe in February.
All right.
But yeah, thanks for thanks
March
for
March
asking about that.
2021. Look out for
Yeah,
the title is I Am Not a Virus, if I
it is. I am
remember.
not a virus.
I Am Not
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
Virus by Dr. Jordan Van Hemert. Keep your eyes peeled.
Right on, man. Thanks again, Caleb. Take care, everybody out there. Thanks so much for tuning in.
See you guys. Thanks, West Michigan Jazz Society. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jordan.